Chapter 3. The Journal. Rachel didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed with the leather-bound journal on her chest, the weight of it heavier than it should have been. Her mind raced with every line she had read, every name and date scribbled in the margins. The handwriting had grown more unstable the further she read. Shaky, rushed, as if written in fear. Some pages had been torn out. Others were stuck together with something that had long dried. There was something else, a symbol, drawn over and over again at the bottom of several entries. A circle with 3 slashes through it, like claw marks over an eye. Rachel had never seen it before, but it felt familiar, like something she'd seen in a dream long ago and forgotten. She traced the image with her finger and shivered. The next morning, she sat at the kitchen table, the journal open in front of her, flipping through pages again while Paul sat across from her, sipping bitter coffee. He had barely said a word since she told him what she'd found. "You really think this is real?" he asked finally. Rachel looked up at him. "You saw the footprint." "That could have been a drifter, a hunter." "At our window, Paul? Barefoot?" He didn't answer. Rachel tapped a page. "Listen to this. November 2nd, 1956. The voices were louder last night. They whisper in the walls, telling me to open the door. They said they've been here long before the house, long before people, watching, waiting, feeding. He only comes when the field dies, when the fog rolls low and the wind stops. That's when he crosses." Paul scratched his jaw. This was 60 years ago. Rachel looked out the window toward the field. It's happening again. Later that day, Paul went to the shed and retrieved the old hunting camera from where he'd mounted it last week. He hadn't told Rachel what he found on it the first time, but now, with the journal, he felt a creeping dread settle deep into his chest. He plugged the SD card into the laptop and opened the folder. There were new images, 38 in total, each taken automatically between 2:13 and 2:27 a.m. the night before. In the first few frames, the field looked empty, just grass and the tree line in the distance. But in frame 5, something appeared. A tall, stick-like figure standing between 2 trees, almost blending into the bark. It was hard to see. Paul leaned in closer. The figure was facing the house. In frame 12, it had moved. Now it stood 10 feet closer. In frame 21, it was at the fence. In frame 36, it was standing at the edge of the porch. Still. Expressionless, its face featureless except for the deep black holes where eyes should have been. The final image was almost entirely dark, but just faintly, barely, he could make out a hand pressed against the lens. He slammed the laptop shut. That evening, Rachel returned to the basement. The air was colder now, and the overhead bulb flickered constantly, casting jerky shadows across the walls. She sat cross-legged beside the furnace, the journal on her knees, flipping through the back pages. One in particular caught her attention. It had been stuck to the cover with a rusted paper clip. August 3rd, 1961. It's in the child now. I see it in his eyes. He draws things no child should understand. He speaks to someone I can't see. I think I let it in. I waved back. Rachel froze. The sentence repeated in her head, like an echo in a canyon. I waved back. Was that all it took? A moment of acknowledgement? That night, Emily had another drawing. She brought it to Rachel without a word. Her eyes were glassy, vacant. Her skin looked paler than usual, like she hadn't seen sunlight in days. Rachel hesitated before taking the page. It was a sketch of the house again, but this time there were multiple figures, all standing in the field. Dozens of them. Some tall, some small. All faceless. All watching. And in the center, holding hands with one of them, was Emily. Her hair drawn in great detail, her gray eyes outlined. "I dream about them," Emily whispered. "They're waiting for me." Rachel clutched the page, heart thudding. "Who's waiting?" Emily looked out the window. "The man who lives in the fog." Paul wanted to leave. That night, he packed a duffel bag with essentials. "Just for a few days," he said. "Get a motel. Clear our heads." Rachel wanted to believe that would help, but deep down, she knew something was already in motion. She returned to the journal one last time before bed. Near the back was one final entry, smudged and faded, like the ink had been soaked by tears or sweat. October 22nd, 1961. I saw him in the mirror, not behind me, inside me. The child is gone. The voices have gone quiet. He no longer watches. Because now, he waits inside the house. Rachel put the journal away, locked it in a trunk, taped it shut. But she dreamed again that night. She walked the long hallway. This time, she reached the final door, and when she opened it, there was nothing. No room, no light, just a wide open field, and someone waiting for her in the center, waving. Chapter 4, Waking Hours. The morning after Rachel's dream, the house felt wrong, not just heavy with silence, distorted, like something fundamental had shifted overnight. The walls groaned more than usual. The shadows stretched a little longer than they should have, even with the curtains wide open. Paul was already up, pacing the kitchen with a half-empty cup of coffee clutched in his hand. He hadn't slept. His eyes were bloodshot, and his stubble looked days older than it should have. "She talks in her sleep," he said flatly. Rachel looked up from the counter. "What?" "Emily," he said. "Last night, she was whispering, but it wasn't her voice." Rachel's blood turned cold. "What did she say?" He shook his head. "Not in English. It sounded old, like Latin or something older than that." Rachel said nothing, but the words from the journal flashed in her mind. "He speaks to someone I can't see." By midday, the wind outside had died completely. There was no bird song, no rustling. Even the insects had gone silent. It was the kind of quiet that presses on your ears, makes you feel like you've gone deaf. Rachel went into Emily's room to check on her. The girl sat by the window, still in her nightgown, sketchbook on her knees. Her pencil moved in soft, slow strokes. She didn't even turn when Rachel entered. "Sweetheart," Rachel said, "do you want to go for a drive with us later? Maybe get some ice cream. Get out of the house for a bit?" Emily kept drawing. Rachel walked closer. The sketchbook was open to a 2-page spread. It showed their house, again. But the details were more vivid now, almost architectural. Every window, every board. And in the attic window, the faceless figure staring out. "Why do you keep drawing him?" Rachel asked softly. Emily spoke without turning. "Because he wants me to remember him." Rachel's voice cracked. "Remember from where?" Emily turned slowly, her gray eyes dull. Her lips barely moved when she whispered, "Before." That night, the dreams came again, but they were no longer just Rachel's. Paul dreamed of the field, burnt black, as if fire had scoured the land, but left no smoke. In the center stood Emily, barefoot, holding hands with a tall figure. When Paul tried to run toward her, the ground turned to ash beneath his feet. Rachel dreamed of the hallway again. Only now there were doors slamming shut behind her as she moved forward, one by one, louder each time. The end of the hallway seemed further and further away, but she was being pulled toward it, not by her legs, but something behind the final door, something that knew her name. They awoke at the same time, 3:12 a.m., gasping, drenched in sweat. Down the hallway, a creaking sound echoed, not once, not twice, but 3 times. They met in the hallway, both pale, both trembling. Paul carried the crowbar. Rachel had the flashlight. Emily's door was open. Her bed was empty. They found her on the porch, standing barefoot in the cold. She was staring into the field. The fog was thicker than ever, clinging to the ground like smoke. Paul touched her shoulder gently. Emily... She didn't blink. He told me to wait here. For who? Rachel asked, heart thundering. Emily turned. For you. They brought her inside, locked every door, every window. Paul even nailed the back door shut. Rachel didn't argue anymore. She began reading the journal again, desperately scanning for clues. In the center section, she found something new. Pressed between 2 pages was an old newspaper clipping, yellowed and barely legible. The headline read, "Local boy missing. Jacob Delaney, age 9, last seen at home in Greenbrier County." The child disappeared in the early hours of October 20th, 1961. Parents reported hearing voices and movement in the house prior to his vanishing. Search efforts yielded no results. House has been unoccupied since. Jacob Delaney, Mabel Delaney's son. Rachel's hand shook as she turned the page. There, in trembling ink, he comes every generation, every harvest moon. The land drinks a child. The house feeds the silence. And the watcher waits. That night, something changed. The fog rolled onto the porch for the first time. It pooled at the front door, seeping under the threshold. The windows frosted on the inside. Emily stood at her bedroom mirror for over an hour, unmoving. Paul found her there, whispering softly to the reflection. When he touched her shoulder, she turned slowly. Her mouth didn't move, but a man's voice came out, low, hollow, echoing. "You should not have come here." Then she blinked, and the voice was gone. She collapsed into Paul's arms like a rag doll, unconscious. Rachel screamed. Paul wanted to run. He wanted to grab Emily, grab the keys, and drive as far as the tank would take them. But when he opened the front door, fog rushed in, thick, alive. It curled around his feet like vines. He slammed the door shut. They weren't just being watched anymore. The field was moving closer. The house was letting it in. End of chapter 4. This story is inspired by true legends, eerie coincidences, and unexplained events reported across rural America, particularly in the Appalachian region. While the events and characters have been fictionalized for storytelling, many elements are rooted in real folklore, historic disappearances, and first-hand accounts of the strange and unexplainable. What you're about to hear may not be fully real, but it's based on things that are.